In this recording, I'm going to show you how to use w3css framework to make a multi-column layout. And what I'll do is I'll code the assignment basically. And in the assignment, what I wanted you to do is make a header, and I've used a black header here. And then underneath the header, I want a 2-column layout where one side is text and the other side is an image. You get to choose which goes on which side. But the basic idea here is that I have 2 columns that take up 50% of the screen each. And as I resize the screen, they continue to take up 50% of the screen. If I get small enough, I want your 2 columns to stack. So in a mobile arrangement like that. This is a pretty simple thing to do with w3css. The first thing you got to know about multi-column layouts is you got to start thinking in rows. And in this assignment, I have 2 rows of content. I have one row is this top header, and my second row is the text and the image. That second row is divided up into 2 different columns, and that's kind of how we code it with containers. So I'll pop over to brackets here, and here is my empty document. So starting in the body, I'll start with that header. Now you could use a div, but since it is the header, I'm going to use the header element. And inside of that header, I'm going to put a heading. And when you do yours, I encourage you to actually make it into some kind of real page, like pick a theme, your pet or something. Make an actual page for me. That's way more fun. But now I've got that heading in there. And you can see that's pretty boring. So a couple things I need to do. One is I need to get that text off of the edge of the screen. And if you remember, the way to do that is to use the w3 container class. You can see that has put a little padding on the left. I also want to give it some color. And I'm going to do blue. So there we go. Got a nice blue header. And that's that. Now underneath, here is my main content row. I'm going to use a div for this. You could also use the main element. Main is a special type of div. The trick for these is to use the class w3row, right? And that's telling w3css that whatever's inside of this main element, that's going to be a multi-column row. And then you need to tell it how big each column is in the row. So now I want each of my columns to take up half the screen. So the class is w3half. Okay. So there's one. Here is my second column. And I haven't put anything in them yet, so you can't see anything. But I could just start typing so that we can see that it worked. And you can see div 1 is on the left and div 2 is on the right. And that's half and half. And you'll also notice that right away when I go down to mobile size screen, they already stack for free. That's a really nice thing about w3css, is that if you use these row and column classes, it will automatically do that stacking for you. Okay. Note that you don't have to do half and half. I could have done quarter for one of them and 3/4 for the other. Now you can see that the first one takes up 1/4 of the screen, that's 1/4, and the second div takes up 3/4 of the screen. No matter how wide it is, it maintains that until you get narrow and it still stacks. So as long as your columns add up to a full unit, then you're good to go. For this assignment, we don't need a 3-column, but I just want to show you real quick. You know, doing a 3-column layout is as simple as adding another div and just making sure that the 3 classes add up to 1, right? 2/4 makes a half plus 1 other half. That's a full row. And again, you can see here this div is taking up half and these 2 are each 1/4 width. And it's pretty easy. So I'll delete that. After this, the main concept is pretty much over. What we need to do now is just put some content into here, and we need to add a couple more classes to make things look good. Once again, my text is right up against the edge. So I want to fix that by adding w3 container to each of these divs, because each of these is a container. Okay. That's looking good. Then inside of here I could throw in a paragraph, and I'm just going to do a lorem paragraph using my lorem extension, and that's a nice easy way to add some text. So I got that real quick and easy. And then div 2, I want it to be an image in there. So you go download an image, code that. I'll use that Cleveland image. Don't forget your alt text for screen readers and the blind. Save that. Okay, that's starting to look pretty close already. One thing I want to change is the way I've coded this image. As I size it down, all it does is it cuts off the right side of the screen. Okay, and I want to fix that so that it rescales the image. Two ways to do that. One way that's almost foolproof is just to say style equals width 100%. That means that it'll take up 100% of the width of its container, and the container is this div, and this div takes up half the screen. So by saying width 100% here, I'm going to take up half the screen. And you can see it's doing that just fine, and it's resizing like I wanted it to. I don't want this white bar on the right, and if you remember, what put that there was the container, w3 container class. That puts padding into the container. Well, what if I don't want that padding? I'll just remove w3 container, and now it goes right up to the edge of the screen, and that's pretty much it. Pretty simple.